Well, good morning, Nigeria, and welcome once again to Breakfast Extra. Now, how do we begin to thread all the stories from over the week together? Now, we've got a police shooting, a defamation lawsuit, a one-party democracy, whatever that means, a compulsory voting bill, and banditry aided by men in uniform. Now, honestly, these issues are as diverse as the ingredients in afang soup. What do you have, like periwinkles, water leaf, okazi? I think there's one stockfish somewhere in there. And maybe one or two of those items our mothers wouldn't disclose. But, however, we will stir it all up and serve, even if the outcome may not be as palatable as Grandma's Saturday family meetup soup. Also, a public service announcement to you out there. If you are humor intolerant and easily triggered or were recently offended by any of my previous jabs, well, this may not be the segment for you. And yes, I do read the comment section too. I actually find it rather entertaining, if you ask me. But today's monologue, by the way, gathers a bit of steam, so I please beg you to stick with me here. Now, however, we begin on a very sober note. In Ibadan, over the week, a 14-year-old student en route to sit for his WAEC exams was shot and killed. The headlines are calling it a stray bullet. You know that term? I don't know. We've so normalized it in Nigeria, like that cousin who always shows up uninvited at family functions. But let's define it. What it really means. Stray bullet. A bullet that veers off its intended target, often in a chaotic and uncontrolled circumstance, resulting from a state of battle, or maybe fighting between two opposing parties. Except in this case, there wasn't a battlefield. It was a traffic stop, a future cut shot from a gun held by a policeman who should be trained to de-escalate, not eliminate. Big question is, why exactly is the Nigerian police involved in traffic arrests anyway? And has the uniform become a one-size-fits-all license to harass, extort, and now kill? It's really a sad situation, this, and trust me, I held myself from crying on live television over the week as News Central correspondent Ifiribo Israel interviewed the father of the slain twin. I had to call for a break to collect myself. And I bet you didn't know that he was a twin, did you? Can you imagine the trauma for the family? Well, from that grief, let's talk about disbelief. Senator Natasha Akpoti is back in the headlines, and you remember her, don't you? Queen of political firestorms and viral accusations. And this time, she's being sued yet again, only now for defamation by the Nigerian government. Now, let's recap for you. This is what happened. She accused the Senate president of some serious things. Nigeria paused, we held our breaths, and then nothing happened. No investigation, no follow-up, no inquiry into the original claim. But now it's see you in court from the federal government. And wait, are we watching the same show? Or did maybe writers change somewhere mid-season? I'm not too sure, but I'll come back to you on that one. But does anybody remember the sexual misconduct allegation that she brought up? Any committee summon? Any results from the panel set up? Or did we just simply skip all of that and jump to litigation like it's a Nollywood movie missing the second act? Because that's exactly what it seems like. And then, in totally unrelated matters, at the 2025 APC National Summit, President Tinubu received the party's endorsement for a second term. Naturally. But what raised more eyebrows was his declaration that there's nothing wrong with a one-party system. Now, I don't know who's briefing the president, but a one-party system isn't democracy. It's monopoly politics. It's like playing musical chairs with only one chair and one song. And oh, the DJ works for the government. So let's be clear. Multiple creditable sources, including the Atlantic Foreign Affairs and also Bookings Institution, all agree one-party states often lead to unchecked power, weakened accountability, and, let's not forget, voter disengagement. Now, I want you to hold that thought because we're coming back here to talk about this, so just hold it right there. But shout out to Mr. President for the endorsement. Anyway, congratulations to you, naturally. And to the opposition, is there anybody left out there? Because everything you own to the left now belongs to the APC, including your former members. Beyonce 2026, or is it 2006? Wow, such a long time ago. Speaking of ruling by force and voter disengagement, let's now talk about the compulsory voting bill. The Nigerian Bar Association, well, they say that it is illegal and also draconian. And frankly, well, they have a point. I mean, why force people to vote in a system where their votes really don't even seem to count? It never matters, not these days. Voter disengagement, you see, isn't the disease. It's the symptom. You don't punish the patient for not wanting to take expired medication. I mean, some Nigerians just want to be left alone. And while that may seem despondent, what else can we do? But congratulations are yet in order for our very own team here at News Central, Breakfast Central, for that very explosive interview with Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State. But let's all not pretend that we slept well after that. The governor confirmed some very worrying things, that politicians and uniformed officials are serving as informants for bandits. Yes, the very people who should be protecting you and I, who want us, by the way, to compulsorily vote, are allegedly playing both sides like it's some twisted reality. Well, Nigeria, we hail thee. Congratulations to us all. And on that deeply unsettling note, I should say, well, I'm back from a much-needed 2-week break. Some say I ran away, some say I went for therapy. They wouldn't be wrong. Others say that I joined the APC. Whatever the case, I'm back, and as usual, it's that part of the show where I welcome my able co-host, Judith Atibi. Judith, good morning to you. Welcome once again. And did you miss me?
Good morning, of course. We all, they were in my ear telling me I was on the wrong camera. Of course, now we did miss you. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you very much for a moment. I thought you were getting used to Dakpo. I can't wait to try on my chair.
Oh, Dakpo he was on for how many days? I can't remember.
Was it 2 now?
It was 2, and then there was Dashin as well.
Dashin as well. Thank you to both of them, by the way. I'm wondering if his butt print is still in the chair, but I'll come check it out right now. Let me come do that already, let's just get started, shall we?
And you are welcome to the main part of Breakfast Extra. And today, as always, we've got quite the lineup for you. First, we head to Katsina, where the cost of housing is rising. And our correspondent, Rukayyah Jibia, breaks down the numbers and the fears of residents caught in the squeeze. Then still in that hour, Aisha Salihu brings us a stirring call from youth leaders, joined by Isaac Abrak, as they push back against religious violence and, of course, the silence that too often follows this. And then on our extra special segment, we talk money. We are unpacking why most Nigerians still can't access formal financial services. And, of course, in our big story later on the hour, NAS and budget are locking horns over an eye-watering 6.93 trillion naira budget padding scandal. So what's fact, fiction, or financial fantasy? All we have to say is that you stay tuned to find out, because it's going to be a show of politics, of pain, and of course of policy as well. But for now, however, we're going to bring you all of the biggest story, and we will get started with our big report for today. And as we told you earlier, it's going to be on Katsina housing and of course the housing crisis, as residents are concerned about rising costs. Mazino.
Well, Katsina is currently facing a significant housing crisis, exacerbated by rapid population growth, internal displacement due to insecurity, and also increased migration into urban areas. Now, the city's population has surged by approximately 3.83% in the past year, reaching an estimated 564,796 in 2025. Now, this growth, coupled with the influx of internally displaced persons fleeing banditry and in other conflict zones, has intensified the demand for affordable housing. Now, despite government efforts, including the allocation of 5 billion naira for affordable housing projects, the supply remains insufficient to meet the burgeoning needs of the population. So, to provide an in-depth look at this pressing issue, our correspondent Rukayyah Jibia brings us a comprehensive report on the housing challenges in Katsina. Let's take a look.
The rapid population growth in Katsina has significantly impacted the availability of housing. Many families are struggling to find sufficient space or affordable homes to live in. This demographic increase is largely driven by people fleeing rural areas and neighboring regions affected by banditry and insecurity, seeking safety and better livelihoods within the capital city.
a samu garin kurhi ya cika ba gidan saboda abin ya riga ya haya yanzu nan garin kurhi da yan kace kana son ka samu gidan haya wallahi tallahi ba ka samu shi na rage Allah ka tunda asuba wallahi tallahi za ka ga mata da yara yan kanana yan gudun hijira suna koma gida da rana ta faɗi an wo abinci dama a dawo gari.
This influx has placed immense pressure on Katsina's housing infrastructure, with the existing housing stock unable to accommodate the rising demand. One of the most distressing aspects of this crisis is the long wait faced by many families seeking new housing. Reports indicate that some families have had to wait in long queues for as much as a year or more before being able to get a house.
Mutane suke shigowa sakamakon insecurity. So za ga cewa gidaje yanzu ina tabbatar ma idan ka duba na office to do my list na mutane da suke shigowa a rubuta number waya a register da sunaye number waya za ka yi mamaki. Akwai mutane da yawa yanzu suna nan wasu ma suna zama a hotel ne. Kai har abin da ma ba mu sani ba da sai ga an yi aure wai har a daura aure ba gida. Sai dai idan mutum na da hali wani yakan zo ya zauna hotel for the meantime kafin a samu gidan wata kuma ta ci gaba zama gidansu.
Despite efforts by developers to address the issue through new housing projects, property prices in Katsina have surged by over 150% in just 12 months. However, the pace of construction has not kept up with the soaring demand, leading to further shortages and increased prices.
In 2022, Katsina was reading around 9.3 million people. As of 2023, it was reading around 9.8 million people. And as of 2025 now, it's reading about 11.5 million people. This is just not limited to fertility rate, but also related to this insecurity of how people move from their local governments, villages to a more safer area, which is the capital of the city. So the matter is alerting to the extent that a person has to book a house one year before even occupying the space.
Meanwhile, construction costs continue to rise significantly. The sharp increase in building expenses has discouraged many investors from venturing into the housing business, as the higher costs extend the time it takes to recover their investment and realize profits.
Abin da ya kawo wannan inflation yawa building material misali ba kowa ne zai zuba ma kuɗi ba ya gina ma gidaje ko gida to da aka zo aka ce me ya bada shi haya abin zai duba kuɗin da ya kashi nawa za a bar shi.
The impact of this crisis is felt across all levels of society. Families are forced to live in cramped conditions or seek accommodation in distant suburbs, increasing their daily commute and reducing their quality of life. In Katsina, for News Central, Rukayyah, Jibia.
Many thanks to Rukayyah for that report. And she joins us now to delve deeper into the situation. Rukayyah, Jibia, she's a correspondent at News Central, joining us live from Katsina. Also joining us is architect Umar Bashiru. He's a real estate developer, and you saw him on the report earlier. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us this morning. Let me just get started with you, Rukayyah, and ask, the reason that you decided to go in to understand the housing deficit in Katsina and why this report.
Because I'm also a victim, because recently I was looking for a house also, so I know what I went through while looking for that house. I think that is the reason for the report.
And let me ask you, architect Bashir Umar, I have to ask you to just talk to us about the primary factors that are contributing to the current housing deficit that is in Katsina. Is it urbanization, gentrification, or is there more to it? Because we're also seeing it here in Lagos as well, where the price of rent have just gone up by 100%.
I think we have this shortage on low housing projects, either by the federal government, state government, or public-private partnership. Also, before you will see government and unions allocate lands and loans to their staff and workers, which encourage them to start building their own houses. And now there is a tremendous increase in population. As I said, as of 2022, we have about 10.3 million people, 10.8 million people as of 2023, and now 11.56 million people as of this 2025. This is not just limited to the fatality rate, but due to the insecurity, whereby people move from their villages, local governments, to a more secured area, which is the capital. So these houses available have to be shared between the new and old occupants. Also, I think it's due to this high cost of living, due to this economic situation, whereby houses that are leased out at the rate of 200K as of last 3 years now are given at the rate of. So I think that's it.
Okay. Bashir, thank you very much. Well, let me come back to Rukayyah. I share your experience. I lived in Abuja once, and it was very difficult for me to get housing. This is Abuja, by the way, but we're talking about Katsina here. So I'm wondering whether the case is the same as what I experienced living in Abuja, where in that case, it was because houses were expensive. To get a small self-contained at that time was so out of my budget. But in this case, it would seem that it's not that they're overpriced. It would seem that they're just scarce. They're not available. Am I correct, Rukayyah?
I think the problem, there are two problems. One is the houses are scarce, just like architect said, and then the other one is the houses are also expensive. Because in my reports, you can hear that I said the houses, the rates of the houses have increased by 150%. Because as of last 2 years, the house that that is rent out at 150,000, currently, I think that house is rented out at 500,000 or 550,000.
Okay, and what do people...
So the houses are expensive, one, and then two, the houses are scarce.
Okay. So what do people have to resort to doing when they can't find these houses? Where do they stay? How do they find accommodation, or how are they accommodated in these instances?
They end up cramped maybe in dilapidated houses, just in cramped conditions. You know, maybe just like students, you see that they will just be squatting with their fellow student. And then some of the people, they find rented places maybe in a very distant place from the town. So transport will be another issue for them. You know, I think I even have to revisit this housing issue, my housing reports, because yesterday I spoke to some of the students and they were telling me about spending at least 5,000 naira before going to their school.
Architect Bashir, let me come to you. With the infusion of, I think, about, it's just a sizable sum, 5 billion naira into the system, what kind of structures are being built to accommodate people? Are these, from the pictures that we're seeing, I can see very elaborate, huge buildings. Are there any, what do you call it now, houses like low-cost houses being built for people to be able to afford, affordable housing?
Yes, like I said, there is now shortage on this low housing project. So low-cost housing projects. So I think if government should provide this low-cost housing projects, it will cater for all these needs. So like our staffs, for example, of polytechnics, universities, and so on, it can be gradually be deducted from their salary. And also, I think the government and unions should allocate land and loans also to their staffs, which will encourage them to start building their own houses without waiting for rent and so on. Because the matter is so alerting to the extent that a person can book a house 1 year, 2 years before even occupying it. So I think these two solutions may cater for all these needs.
Right. I wanted to ask about, you were just talking about the government providing, and let's talk about public-private partnership, or better yet, just the private arm of things. You said there are low-cost housing that are being, considered and really being built. But do you think that more the government should lean into public-private partnership, PPPs, where, you know, low mortgage, low cost housing is being established, but most importantly, mortgages are given to the residents of Katsina to be able to afford these homes.
Yes, I think it's the best solution to cater for all these needs. Mostly people don't want to invest in Katsina State due to the fact that it's not a marketing state, actually. So, but for this high demand of houses, I think it's a good development to come.
Rukayyah, I've got one final question for you regarding the influx of internally displaced people. If the focus has been to create houses for people who can, well, let's say, afford these houses, what about people who are displaced? How is the government managing these influx of people who can't even afford, you know, at the lowest rate, these accommodations?
I can say straight that the government is not doing anything because up to now we don't even have an official IDP camp in Katsina. At least if we have an official IDP camp, it would have been a little bit better. But these people are just living on the streets. They are living in incomplete buildings, you know, on the streets. You can just see them. Maybe if you go out to Katsina at night, you'll just be seeing people on the streets lying down, sleeping with their children because there is no official IDP camp in Katsina. So the government did not even consider building an IDP camp for these people. So how will they even consider building houses for them?
Well, thank you very much, Rukayyah. Thank you very much, Architect Bashir, for being with us this morning to help us get more light on this situation in Katsina State. We'll continue to see how it develops, and we also hope that, well, at least the situation lightens up a bit. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you very much, Rukayyah. Well, Judith, I don't know about you, but Lagos here is really not that different.
Listen, I was saying it earlier.
How much you pay now?
Please don't make me talk. You know me, I won't say share such information. But I will say this. I don't know what the issue is. I thought it was population that was the issue in Lagos, but it's no more an issue like in Lagos when it comes to, you know, housing. I thought it was population at first, but I think it's so much more than that. To me, I believe it's that the cost of building these homes are too expensive. I think that we have lost the plot in terms of building homes. Usually, people built homes as a long-term investment, but maybe because of the cost of the material themselves,
they want to get it back.
They want to get immediately, and I just don't understand it. And there's no creativity in these homes. Why are you building rectangular homes?
Oh,
they're not functional. I don't get it. What are you doing?
Necessities.
Oh, man. There's so much going on
Rectangular
with
homes.
it.
I had a situation where my rent was increased, but I have a gracious landlord. Thank you very much, Mr. Anayo. Thank you. So don't increase it again next year. But in any case, I do understand that the situation in Lagos particularly is actually a very bad one now with everything that's going up. And that landlords as well also have to increase these bills or these monies. However, I have heard that in some places that it is the overzealousness of maybe the agents or whoever it is in between you and the landlord is what actually takes most of that monies. There is, however, an agency, I think I'll bring you the details of that you could report overzealous agents, overzealous, what do they call the other guys?
Yeah.
With, you know them, the ones in between you and the landlord.
And those are the agents.
The agents is another one.
Well, the caretakers?
The caretakers and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
So there is an agency that is vested with the responsibility to actually bring accountability to residents of Lagos State. I'll get you the details so that we can tell where you might need to go if you're experiencing any of these currently, especially here in Lagos.
I mean, I don't even know what it is. I don't know what the problem is because there are the laws and there are agencies, but enforcement is an issue. And that just goes to show that at our very core, we're just rogues. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're just, at our core, we're just rogues. Because they'll be like, government will come and tell me how much to give me to be my own house. Like, do you really think you're going to make all that money in just one?
You sound like one of them already, or you've dealt too much with them.
Too much. I have. I really have.
Let's take a break now. And when we come back, we've got more conversation here inside our first hour for Breakfast Extra. Do stay with us.
welcome back. On May 21st, 2025, Christian youths in Abuja staged a peaceful protest to decry the surge in cyber attacks and online harassment targeting religious leaders. The demonstrators, under the banner of the Concerned Christian Youth Forum, CCYF, demanded an end to what they described as deliberate and well-funded campaigns aimed at discrediting Christian clerics and undermining the faith. Now, they called on the Nigerian government to take decisive action to protect religious freedom and curb the rising tide of digital abuse directed at spiritual leaders. The protest also highlighted broader concerns about religious discrimination and the marginalization of Christian communities in Nigeria. The Northern Christian Youth Professionals, that's the NCYP, led by chairperson, and that's Isaac Abrak, have previously expressed disappointment over the exclusion of Christians from key governmental appointments, such as the governing body of the Northwest Development Commission. Now, these actions, they argue, reflect a pattern of systemic neglect and call for more inclusive representation to ensure national unity and equity.
So to delve deeper into these pressing issues, we are joined by Aisha Salihu, who brought us that report, New Central correspondent, and also Isaac Abrak, chairman of the Northern Christian Youth Professionals. Their insight into this matter will shed light on the challenges faced by Christian communities in Nigeria and the steps needed to address them. Mr. Abrak, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Isaac Abrak, are you with us? Unfortunately, I think we do not have Mr. Isaac at the moment, and we might have lost connection with Aisha Salihu. We're going to try and reconnect with the... Aisha is back with us. Aisha, are you back with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Mazino.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Aisha. Now, Aisha, let's talk about the protests. I was on the news with you where you brought us the information right there in Abuja. Could you please, first of all, recount what had happened on that occasion?
Okay, thank you so much, Mazino, for having me this morning. I actually followed the protest from the venue of the protest, the Unity Fountain, where the place government has designated for protest in Abuja. And I saw these people, the Concerned Christian Youth, they came out in their numbers, raising the issues they had, and then they were calling out to the government to look at these issues. And part of these issues would be they're talking about persistent campaign of defamation and slander on the Christian faith and also the Christian leaders. And this, they allege, is being perpetrated by human rights activists Omoyele Sowore and other collaborators. They said they had carried out their investigations over the years, and they have seen this trend. It's not an isolated event. It's something that has happened over and over and over again. They keep seeing online campaigns, misinformation about Christian leaders and the Christian faith. And it's now looking like it's a fight against the church. It's a fight against what Christianity stands for. And they said they have been keeping quiet. They have been patient about this trend, but then it's now beginning to look like they're being taken for a ride. They're being taken for fools. So they then decided to come out to call the attention of government to this. Perhaps the government is not seeing this. They have seen this as an opportunity to come out and call the government using the media platform, of course, the same media platform that they alleged, social media platform. They said this particular individual, Omoyele Sowore, human rights activist, is they allege he's sponsoring people, some persons in Nigeria, especially the young people, against the church, against religious leaders. And then these were the issues they raised. And they came out en masse calling out on the government to see to it that they put a stop to this particular activity by this group of persons. I mean, human rights activist Omoyele Sowore and his collaborators. Anyways, this is alleged.
Okay, well,
all right. Mr. Isaac, do we have you back on now?
Mr. James, actually. No, we don't, unfortunately.
Hello, good
Mr.
morning.
Abra, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Hello?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good morning, Mr. James.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I mean, let's just also get your own, context of the recent protest by Christian youths in Abuja. There are many specifics that have been called regarding this protest, and one of them is that there have not been appointments, leadership, Christians in leadership role, especially with the Northeast Development Center. We've also heard about, saying that there were targeted campaigns against Christian leaders on social media. What do you make of these claims?
Okay, I will just go straight to that of the social media. The hazard of social media attacks on Christian faith to us has assumed a worrisome dimension. Because more worrisome it is because these attacks are consistently targeting our Christian leaders, okay, and it has crossed the band of what is acceptable to us. Because we've been keeping quiet for a very long time, and we all know that everybody have right to religious freedom as enshrined in our constitution. And so in a situation whereby a particular religion is an object of attack and it continues that way, then for us, it now calls for a concern. Because at first, we're taking note of all this attack, and we just felt, okay, maybe these are just, okay, but later we discovered that it is beyond content, okay? A situation whereby it grows from content creating to physically leading a protest against a church. And then we now look at it and say, no, I think we should, it's time we begin to respond to some of these things. Thank you.
And so what has been, the response to this protest that have been staged in Abuja so far? Have you heard from any government officials, from CAN, leadership at CAN as well? What's been their response like?
Okay, during the protest, we have a representative from the National Assembly who were there. Then we also have representative from the executive arm of government, okay, because like I say, religion is the very fabric of society, and anything that touches religion touches the very fabric of society. And so for now, we haven't heard anything from the government, any like CAN or any. We haven't heard anything for now. But this is just to say that we are also ready to ensure that our voice is being heard, even if it is calling for a national protest or something that will make government know that we are very serious about this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. James. Rukayyah, let me come back to you. Rather, Aisha, let me come back to you. Aisha, there were two protests on the day, if I'm not mistaken. There were two different Christian groups. Can you please clarify exactly which one was which and what the two different demands might have been from these two groups?
Okay, no, it was one Christian group, and yes, two protests that day, but just one Christian group, and it's the concerned youth, concerned Christian Youth Forum, just like the conveners.
There was a bit of police involvement where they were displaced from the Unity Fountain, wasn't there?
Well, no, the one at the Unity Fountain was heavily guarded by the police. As a matter of fact, they coordinated the whole protest. There was no form of dispersal of the youth because it was coordinated. We had security operatives there, and they coordinated the whole activity. But I think the one you may be referring to would be what happened at the gate of the National Assembly, where the indigenous residents of the FCT staged a protest. Yes.
Okay. Mr. James, I think you wanted to have a word in there. Am I correct?
Come again, please.
I thought you wanted to say something from before while I was asking Aisha those questions, but that's okay. So, Mr. James, Now, if there is no reaction from the authorities regarding this, what would be the next step of the group? What would you do? What would you organize next? And how would you bring your demands to the ears that need to hear it?
Okay, thank you very much. Our next step is going to be a national protest, like I've said, because we are determined that we must be heard. We must be heard because even what we are doing presently is in the interest of national security. We don't want a situation whereby this whole thing will escalate and then it becomes a religious crisis. That is what we are trying. Are high as we speak now. Emotions are high. Our youth are no longer happy with what is happening, and so we are for the government to hear us, and also to I must also say that if at all we have no response from anywhere, there are processes we want to start. Sending maybe a reminder, a letter to Mr. President, a letter to the Attorney General of the Federation, because he is the custodian of our law, and then also a letter to the National Assembly. And then from there, if there is no further response, then of course we'll call for a national protest. We'll call for a national protest. Thank you.
And so I have to ask, right? One of the things that that comes to fore when we think about the demands from this protest by your organizations and like-minded individuals was that there were no appointments of Christians in the leadership role, especially for the Northern Development, that's the NDDC, if I'm correct, or the NEDC. And so it begs to ask the question, if we're to address that, what would that address look like? What would a remedy or the preferred solutions, what would that solution look like that would, you know, meet the demands of the protest?
Okay, for me, maybe I think there's a misinformation here concerning appointments, okay, because our protest was not about appointments. Our protest is about putting an end to the incessant attacks on our faith, on our people, and on our leaders. That is the aim of our protest. And when you talk about appointment, in all fairness, I think in this administration, there are a lot of Christians that are appointed into several positions. Like you have the SGF, which is Secretary to the Government of the Federation. He is a Christian. And also, you have several others. The EFCC chairman is a Christian. The Inspector General of Police is a Christian. And several others that are appointed into several positions. But that is not to say that we have it how it's supposed to be. No. I'm also using this opportunity to also call up much as it can to also consider bringing in more Christians into positions that will be able to help his administration. The other people, for instance, the other religions too, like Muslims and others, like you have them, of course, they are also helping. But for me, I'm advocating that, yes, bring in more Christians to be able to solve the problem. Thank you.
Let me ask you, looking at the visuals from the protest there were placards calling for the persecution of Showore. Why?
Okay, thank you so much. That's where I've been expecting. You see, the issue with Showore is that, number one, he talks anyhow. There was a time a clip was brought to my attention where Showore stated that all pastors are non-entities. All pastors are illiterates. It's because they don't have work. And that is why they are going the route of pastorship and all of those stuff. And then there is this one eyewitness with my two-face. There is a particular church in Abuja where in the last administration, the church closed from service and people were trooping out in their numbers. And the next thing is that we saw a particular group of people who came out. And then the next thing was they brought out a banner and it was the then president, Buhari must go, in the midst of thousands of people who were coming out of church. And then someone called the attention of the security and said, look at what is happening, look at what do you call it, the government against the church.
So are you asking
those group of persons?
Yeah. Are you asking that he be persecuted for free speech? Because if he makes comments or says things about leaders, you know, that's free speech. He's exercising his free speech to say whatever it is. He didn't name names. He didn't name names. He didn't name any names. He didn't defame anyone. He just made a comment. So should he be persecuted for his comments because he talks anyhow?
I am asking that he be prosecuted for hate speech.
For hate speech.
You know, when you say he didn't mention names, that is not true. If you go to his social media handles, you will know, you will see where he mentions the name of Pastor E.A. Adeboye, where he mentions the name of Dr. Pastor Paul Enenche, where he mentioned the name of Dr. D.K. Rukayyah of Mountain of Fire, and several others. Now, this is to also let you know that I have interfaced with him at the Force Intelligence Department several times, because a lot of these defamation cases and cyberbullying, we take it upon ourselves to go arrest these people, bring them and speak to them in the language that they will understand, for them to know that, number one, it's not everything that is content creating. And then number two, you are talking about religion here, and it's not something anybody would like to play with, because watching someone attacking your faith is a harrowing experience. And so we talk, the first, second, third time we interface, you know, we speak, the Jadianju was there, and he can bear me witness. Okay, we talk at length, and then there is this issue of, what do you call it, Zio Gunsayo, one seeking boy that went to arrest, who was calling an 83-year-old man, Pastor Adeboye, a fool.
So why isn't
insulting?
I mean, the Christian youth, there's so much that the Christian youth have to deal with, right? If he has made comments like this to these individuals that you have named, I think according to the law, it is them that should go to the courts, and it should be a civil matter and or a defamation case, and has nothing to do with an entire organization. That is so much more that they have to worry about when it concerns the youth at this time, at a time where there's a cost of living crisis, so on and so forth. Why is this a bone of contention for the entirety of Christian youth in the North?
Okay, thank you so much. This is not about even the entirety of Christian youth in the North. This is about the entirety of Christian youth in the nation as a whole, both west, south, north, east, everywhere. Because, you see, we hold our religious leaders in high esteem. And then, reverting back to the issue of why not take him to court, okay, well, where his own came in was coming to stand as sureties for people we are arresting. And why are we arresting these people? Why not going straight to court? The answer is very simple. There was a time I brought to the attention of the Jadianju and said, look, there's this particular guy. I sent him the video, and I said, look at this video very well. What should you do? He said, yes, let's write the guy. Let's take the guy to court. And then the next thing is that, okay, fine. Yeah, they asked me, do you have the number of the guy? I don't have. Do you have his address? I don't have his address. So if you take him to court, how do you serve him the court papers? And so it is now left for us to go and, you know, do what we need to do to dig out the guy. And by God's grace, we were able to rest of the guy, and the guy was picked up because we don't have tracking equipment. It is the work of the police to do so. And besides, it is our right, whenever we have any issue, to make a complaint to the police. And that is what we are doing.
Mr. Paul James, we only have a few seconds before the news at the top of the hour, but we want to say thank you very much for giving us your insights into this critical matter. We'll continue to follow the story, and hopefully there will be a resolution. Aisha, thank you very much as well. I had questions for you, but unfortunately we have run out of time. But maybe I'll bring them to you on a different occasion. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, lady.
You're welcome.
Now, stay tuned, because coming up next will be the news. Now, let's start by telling you that the Nigerian government has been let off the hook on an $11 billion investment scam involving Process and Industrial Developments Limited. This is after UK court ruled in her favor. National Coordinator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Legal and Investigation Team on the P&ID case, Kofo Abdulsalam Alade, disclosed this while narrating the efforts that led to the successful outcome of the legal tussle with P&ID. Abdulsalam Alade, who spoke during the custody call on the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi, described the landmark victory in a United Kingdom court as a turning point in the fight against corruption and economic sabotage.
Deposit or bond of 200 million dollars, which Nigeria paid. After our success, this bond was released. It was so.
Initially delayed making that payment and used various excuses. We put them under quite a lot of pressure. And the result is the 10 million has been paid, and the balance of the 10 million has been stayed by the court pending a challenge that has been brought by P&ID on the currency in which the government's costs should be settled. So there is a challenge pending. It has already been rejected by the High Court judge, by 3 political judges, and it's due to be heard by the Supreme Court in July. But we are confident that we should prevail in that.
To security matters, troops of the Nigerian Army under Operation Hadinkai have reportedly repelled a coordinated attack by Islamic State West Africa province. Boko Haram terrorists on Damboa town in Borno State. A Friday statement by the army revealed that the troops sighted the terrorists in Damboa and immediately engaged them in a gun duel. The statement added that the operation resulted in the deaths of at least 16 of the terrorists. Although the troops were able to regain control of the situation, one of the terrorists' projectiles caused an explosion that ignited a fire at an ammunition storage facility. And meanwhile, residents of Mate local government area in Borno State have resumed full-scale socio-economic activities following their recent displacement due to terrorist attacks. Once deserted, the community is now bustling with daily commercial activities, marking a significant return to stability and normalcy. New Central's Umaru Kirawa, who has been traversing the hinterland communities, brings us this report.
It's time to grind greens for these families to get what to eat after their resettlement to their community of Marte in Nigeria's northeast. Markets have reopened and traders report rising patronage as community members gradually rebuild their livelihood.
wallahi wa andiro suna da askara biya kun budu mota mata andiro jin makka kudon da sha o sha ko zana ba insha Allah askar yana
marte kile wasile kirma kasun de daran so kasun de tidin di ko de leza kare leza goza isen yarwa kare leza goza isen kindaram da jiti futu chaya dumaro wallanna
kuro soja bi kare ishe nalan shango dan yana da lo kandoro leno kumaro lo kumar maka karal yenye kare da shiro askar yana bare do bana imari da ya kokari an jiro sajin.
Morale is also high among military personnel and members of the civilian JTF in Marte, owing to recent gains in the pursuit of peace and security.
Okay, Your Excellency, are you happy now that your effort seems not to be going in vain, but it's yielding positive results?
I'm very happy. I'm very happy, and inshallah, everything will be well. Everything will be well. I want to commend the federal government, commend the Nigerian army, commend the Nigerian military, and all other stakeholders that have participated fully in order to ensure a return of lasting peace and prosperity to Borno State and other parts of Nigeria. Both the federal government and the Nigerian armed forces have responded positively for our request to enhance security in the affected communities. We have seen many troops who are deployed. We have seen many equipments were deployed, and we have seen the relocation of army officers from Maiduguri to some of the hinterlands.
We journeyed through the rugged and dusty terrains of communities in both northern and central Borno, areas once under the grip of terror. One thing is certain, the people remain resilient in the face of continued threats from insurgents intent on destabilizing their communities.
Marte community continue to witness success as the security forces combined with the civilian JTF, hunters and vigilantes continue to take the battle to the terrorists in their enclaves. Communities now have a sigh of relief to sleep with their two eyes closed. In Marte, for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
South Africa's Jibia Stillwater says efforts were underway to rescue 289 mine workers trapped underground at one of the shafts at the Kloof Gold Mine near Johannesburg. Jibia Stillwater said the workers were safe and gathered at an assembly point in the underground gold mine, one of the company's deepest, located around 60 kilometers west of Johannesburg. It did not provide details on the incident, though a Sibanye spokesperson confirmed it had occurred in the mine's Kloof 7 shaft, adding that all the miners were accounted for and the company was providing them with food. The spokesperson added that safety procedures and an examination of the shaft were underway, after which the miners would be hoisted to the surface. And that's all the headlines this hour. Do stay with us. We're going to break now, and we'll bring you more conversation inside of Breakfast Extra. And you're welcome again. It's the second hour for Breakfast Extra here. It's a Saturday. So let's do extra special right here on your weekend breakfast show. We are going to take a closer look at the people, policies, and also progress shaping our lives. Now, picture this. Over 311 million bank accounts in Nigeria. Well, less than 65 million Nigerians have a bank verification number. No jokes. That's less than 1 in 3. So where are the rest of us banking? Under our beds, on the roofs, or I don't know. Are we even banking at all? Today's conversation is one we simply can't ignore. It's about access. Access to credit, access to saving, access to formal financial tools that can change livelihoods and also build futures.
And according to a new deep dive report by Finance in Africa and Intertel, millions of Nigerians are still locked out of formal financing. From long distance to banking agents, to fear of hidden charges, to just plain lack of trust, and the reasons are just complex and frankly alarming. So joining us today to unpack the findings, there are two incredible minds behind the data. First, we have Emmanuel Paul, who's a managing editor of Finance in Africa. And also joining us today is Yinka Awosanya, is the head of research at Intel Point, but he's also got a new role now, which I'm going to tell him congratulations. New role at Business Front. But gentlemen, thank you both for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Excellent work so far, but also alarming numbers, I would say. When you look at it, it's like, what do you mean this amount of Nigerians still don't have access to banking, credit, just financial literacy, financial tools to empower them for access? Talk to me about this. Let's start with you.
Okay, yeah, I think it's quite interesting, yeah, and I don't think the numbers were surprising, considering I've been a bit knee-deep in this space for the past few years. So when you look at the data we looked at in 2022, 2023, it shows that, okay, there's heavy concentration of formal financial services products in urban areas. So invariably, you have a lot of people in the rural areas not being able to access financial services. Then even those who are able to access financial services, they are usually just doing the bare minimum, the bare bones. Oh, I have an account, and that's it. And financial inclusion, as we all know, goes beyond just having a bank account. It means access to credit, access to pension, access to insurance services. But the reality is a lot of people are still outside. So it's interesting that a lot of people don't even know that you could actually visit a POS agent and open a bank account. A lot of people don't know that. They think you still need to go to a bank branch. A lot of people don't know that you could actually open a bank account with your phone without going anywhere. So there's a lot of things that need to be done in terms of financial literacy. And yeah, let me stop there. So that
Interesting. I'm going to come back to that and how it affects the structure of the bank, the apparatus itself, when you say we can open these accounts at POS terminals and stuff like that. But Yinka, let's talk about this access to credit. Like he said, bare minimum. I have an account. Yeah, honestly, I have an account. That's it. I don't know what else. Because the truth is,
what?
Yeah, you're
not financial. You are just like at the entrance.
At the
you
entrance.
are not inside.
So what more can I do? I hear this credit thing. It interests me. Quite frankly.
So there's credit, there's mortgage, there's pension, there's like a whole, like everything in of financial services. You are in it and it's accessible for you. That's when you say you are financially included.
So how can
you said credit. You said mortgage.
Mortgage, insurance, pension.
Pension, I understand. That's like.
But the pension is very low. The number of people that the last time I checked, I think it's less than 40 million.
But I want to ask. Now I'll bring it into this room now.
Okay.
Do you have a mortgage?
No, I don't.
Do you have a mortgage?
I don't have a mortgage. I went to a bank
you see what I'm saying?
mortgage. They told me I can't have it because of
boom.
Why? Because
just give me excuses. One, the earning capability, and then the fact that yes, they have it, but then the guy that I spoke with you is supposed to be in the customer information department doesn't have enough information to give me to say let me go and come back. No. So he doesn't know what to give. I went to a bank to ask for a credit facility, and he is telling me that, and then their customer service is calling me and telling me something different, something entirely different.
The person who is in charge
that's supposed to be customer information to educate me
about
mortgage, about credit facility. Doesn't have the full picture.
So what bank is this? Sorry, no, don't tell me. But why is this the situation in Nigeria? How is this such a poor use of the banking system?
Okay, so it's about financial education. You mentioned that people don't know that you can walk up to a POS agent and ask that you want to open a bank account and they'll do it for you. It's the same way that people don't know that, okay, you can go to your bank, if you've been banking with your bank for a couple of years, you can go to your bank and say, yes, what credit or what facility do I have access to? Even though they don't do it. I have someone in the US said, in the US, this was UK. After a couple of months, their money came into their salary. Someone approached them and said, okay, the bank that they're banking with, in less than 6 months, approached them, okay, this is what you qualify for. Without the person having to go to the bank to go and say, what do they approach the person and say, this is what you qualify for. This is what you can access. But here, it's not the case. But even when you go there, it's still a point of the person you're speaking with doesn't know what you qualify for in the first place. So there is education on the part of the users and on the part of the service providers, so the financial services, they don't know, the guys that are supposed to know doesn't know.
So can I add to that a little bit? So I have 3 experiences, and I'm going to be short with each of them. My own bank that I've been using for the last 10 years. I didn't know that they had credit facilities that I could use, and I've been using them for 10 years. They've seen my income grow over the last 10 years. I went to them and they said, okay, what company do you work with? I told them, oh, the company is not part of our community, so we need you to have a conversation. And I was just hearing a bunch of buzzwords, right? Then a second bank, I just opened an account with them, and they're calling me, oh, we have this promo on offer. You can get a card for free. I'm like, what am I doing with a free ATM card? I need tangible. Can you tell me about credit? Oh, sir, I don't know much about that. Let me get back to you. And it's over 2 weeks now. I don't have any information. Then the third one is what surprised me the most. I keep telling the story. You have a former CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. The video is online. You can find it at an event. And he's talking about how he was an executive director at a bank, and he still needed financial education. He needed to get access to credit. He needed to get access to credit facilities, but someone else had to educate him.
Doesn't know which way to go.
So it's.
and so, do you think that, because in your report, one of the most shocking things that was there was that, we hear this in the 80s, 70s, 90s. Shocked to find that my grandmother, rest her soul, she had the shilling, you know, from way back when, and also the other one that's like a brass that looks like a shoehorn, still at her home, you know, way back when. But in 2025, your findings show that people are still comfortable saving at home instead of going to the bank.
Trust.
And so, you say trust is one of them, but is it also the situation that the misinformation, or better yet, the lack of information that even the banking agents themselves don't have readily available is one of the reasons why it could be causing this?
Trust information. So you go to an agent. The agent you went to doesn't know the full length of the services that is empowered to offer. That's one. Then two, so there are cases whereby people said they went to do transaction and then their issue with fraud, they got debited and they couldn't access the services they paid for and all that. So you hear people telling stories like that. People that are not in the system already, that's like a barrier for them. If I go in, I will still be experiencing the same thing that people that are already in the system are experiencing. So it kind of like a shield for them to say, no, I don't want to experience this. So trust in the system, and then you have cases whereby you are reporting a fraud to a bank, and the bank is asking you to go to police station to get report, and then getting to the police station to get report, it's a job on itself.
Yeah, it's just a maze.
So I'm not doing it again. And you have people that are like, okay, I don't even want to do banking. Let me just keep my money in my. And people that are educated, that have that experience. So how much more people that are not educated or as educated as?
Can I start from the basics? What happens to my money when it's deposited at a bank? What does the bank do with it? How does it help the economy of the country? Let's start there.
Okay. I am not that.
Okay.
But then,
because
the CBN wants less money outside.
Less money outside. Okay.
More money in the banking system.
So when it's outside, like when Judith saves under her pillow, how does that work adversely for the economy?
It doesn't add to the economy
at all.
Because
you just put a bag on my back.
Because the interest is not coming in. The bank is not using the money to do anything. It's not going to CBN. CBN doesn't have an account of what the money is being used for and all that. So it doesn't really go.
So who needs to be educated now? From everything that we have said, that even if the institution itself is unaware of how it's supposed to use these amounts or the system itself, and then the people have no trust in the banking system, where do we start from to help reform the system? What's your suggestion, Emmanuel?
So I think, we could play it in different ways, right? Okay. We could start from the top down. I know at a point, 2019, 2020, the CBN was trying to incentivize the banks to actually lend more. So the loan deposit ratio and all of that. They've been playing around with the cash reserve ratio. So the idea is the bank must keep certain amount of money with the CBN and lend the rest out. And this is the amount of deposit you should have at all times. But I think so far so good. Those beyond the basic account opening service and all of that, personal lending, and when I've talked to people who work in financial services, they feel like it's very, very risky to lend to regular people, right? So they play it safe, they lend to HNIs, they lend to the government, and it's guaranteed returns. You don't hear stories. And we look at the fintechs that have attempted it. You've seen the stories on TikTok and all of that. These companies chasing people who are owing them money.
To add to that too, you have these fintech guys having non-performing loan as high as 60-70%.
Yes.
Because the risk they are taking. But then the traditional guys, their NPL is around,
single digits. Yeah. Guys, speaking of fintechs, right? Fintechs, we all tout them as groundbreaking, right? But somewhat, they also still can't be able to access most Nigerians in there. what exactly are we talking about here in terms of access? Why has fintech, what's started to be the solution or the innovation that is direly needed in our financial sector, still not cracked the code when it comes to access?
They can't crack the code because of the barrier for them. So for most fintechs in Nigeria, before they can be able to offer you services, you have to be in the banking system already. And they are not empowered. Okay, so for someone that is not in the banking system, to be in the banking system, you need a BVN. And to get a BVN, you need to walk into a branch of a commercial bank. Microfinance can't give you BVN. Payment service bank can't give you BVN. Fintechs can't give you that. So if the fintechs guys cannot do that, so that means so it's basically you have to have a BVN first. You have to be in the banking system first before they offer you services. Of course, there are fintechs like that are doing investing and all that.
Right.
But then you need to be in the system before they can offer you the services.
But why is BVN numbers so low? Why is it that the owners? I was shocked as well when I saw that.
The numbers here, 311 million bank accounts, but 65 million BVNs.
Yeah, it's low because in Nigeria, so as of last year, we have about 4,400 plus commercial bank branches in the country, and they are not evenly distributed. There are states in Nigeria that have less than 20 commercial bank branches, like not a single bank now, like all the banks in that particular state, they have 20 branches. So now tell me, which means they are likely not in every local government. They are probably concentrated in the state capital. So you have cases where someone that is in remote area with no banks, they can't get a BVN. Because getting a BVN means traveling kilometers, tens or hundreds of kilometers to get to where they will get that. So that's that. So until you break that barrier of entering the system, we will still, in 10 years time, we'll still come back and be saying this.
So, interestingly, so layering on top of that, so Yinka just talked about entering the system. Now, even when you are in the system, those who are innovating in financial services are also handicapped. So let's even take credit, for instance. All the fintechs trying to democratize access to credit. They don't have access to most of them don't have access to credit bureaus. So they don't even have data on me and you and our spending habits. So they price us at a very, very high margin. So you're seeing fintechs giving you 360% and per annum interest rates. Wow. Ridiculously high.
Ridiculous.
And when it comes to loan recoveries, banks are also better covered. The CBN introduced something they call the Global Standing Instruction in 2020 that allows any bank to debit your account. So if you're owing Bank A and you run to Bank B, Bank A can still debit your account to Bank B because it's connected through a BVN. But most fintechs don't have access to that service, most commercial banks. So I'm not even surprised when our data even show that more people get loans from banks than they get from fintechs. Which, of course, you should expect that, with all the marketing going on, you should have more loans.
Yeah, maybe they are wary of people calling them with death threats and doing soft obituaries. And the threats are a lot, right? But there's another thing that we're not touching on. It's the hidden charges. Do you think that, look, there was one time in our lives where at the end of, I don't know if, I haven't seen that in a while, maybe because I don't use my savings account anymore from that one bank, But the thing about it is that at the end of each month or each year, you get a notification for, say, interest you've accrued on that savings, right? But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't even rub, It doesn't. Emmanuel is shaking his head. And so he asked the question, do you think this hidden charges is one of the things that deter people from going there to that? Because if it's time for them to deduct their maintenance fee and the rest.
At the end of the month, you get that notification.
One of my bank accounts deducts, they give me savings interest at the end of every month and it deducts the money, so it balances out.
So they give and then they take, give one hand and then take the other. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wow. But the interesting thing here is that, once again, back in the past, you could actually access these credit facilities, these mortgage facilities. My father bought cars. I was privileged to buy one or two, and then all of a sudden, it all stopped.
So how many cars have you used in your lifetime?
It all stopped.
Yeah, how many?
What exactly is responsible for that? Is it the economy that we're going to blame for this? Is it the lack of financial education, or whether the banks itself or the individuals? What's stopped all of this, access?
We can partially blame the economy. It hasn't been rosy the last 10 years or 20 years thereabout. Yeah. That's one. Now, with what you just said now, back then, right now that we have more, you have a system like the NIN, like the BVN, it's supposed to make it much more easier. But it's not. It's not making it much more easier. And then you have a cases whereby the CBN is saying this, and then there's another agency that is saying something entirely different, that this is what you can do, this is what you can do. So there is no synergy between agencies to say, okay, yes, agency A is saying you can do this. Agency B is waking up the following morning and saying, no, you can't do that. And then it's creating confusion on the people that are providing the service that, okay, which one am I doing? So with the system that put in place, BVN was fantastic, was great. Like the potential.
And it has, we have never scratched the surface.
We've not even touched it at all. We've not touched it at all. The BVN, so now imagine harmonizing the BVN and NIN together. So if you make NIN what BVN is, because there are more people with NIN than BVN. So that means my grandma in the village, my aunt in the village that only has NIN can walk up to an agency banking and open an account without having to say, yes, I need to get a BVN first. But that's not the case. Yeah. So we have all this, and in most cases, they are all working in silos. So BVN is doing, CBN is doing with BVN and the banks. You have the federal government doing NIN, then you have the INEC doing the, and then another will come tomorrow.
If the economy gets any better, do you think these infrastructure would perhaps work?
So
inadvertently, I'm asking if the economy is to blame.
So if the economy gets better, but we still need to fix the underlying factor.
Yeah,
the structure.
Like that structure, that framework for the providers to rely on, we still need to fix that first. If we don't fix
Who's
that,
vested with that responsibility?
So CBN as the apex bank and one is the regulatory authority in terms of banking, shoulders that. Then there are other regulatory authorities in financial services that are latching onto it. But it's still CBN. CBN started the Financial Inclusion Initiative 2011 or thereabout. And so it seems as if they started the champion and then the tone just died down. It wasn't as aggressive as it was when they first started.
Isn't that the same with everything when it comes to Nigeria? I mean, cashless policy, when you think about it, it's the same old thing. And we all argued when they came up with that initiative, we did say that cashless policy was not going to work. Nigeria wasn't ready for it. We don't have the infrastructure underlining structures to make it work. All the foundations have been laid for such. And so it begs to ask the question about accessibility and how to reach areas. You guys cover 36 states plus the FCT. What state or what area shocked you in terms of access to finance that blew your socks off? Emmanuel.
So I think in terms of regional coverage, I was actually shocked to see that it's pretty much the same story. Like, it's not like one region had like a major disadvantage. So in the south, you still have places where access to finance is an issue. In the north, you still have places where access to finance is an issue. So I think that's like a major thing to think about, where no one region has a monopoly of, oh, I have everything covered when it comes to financial services.
So that means even Lagos here, there are people that don't have access.
You'll be surprised that you go to some communities in Lagos and like to get to a bank, they have to spend close to 8,000 or thereabouts.
Or ride bicycle, or ride the boat to get there, roll a boat to get there.
Also in your findings, something very interesting that I'm reading here is the fact that gender, location, and also age played a very big role in this access. So could you please help us out with that? Demography and location, how does that play in to access? Do men have more access than women?
Yes,
of course.
Of course, men. That's what I say, but why? 6 in every 10 people without bank accounts are women.
6 in every 10.
Yeah,
and this is a cultural reason. So, so that is still a bit tricky, because the last one, we did a report in 2022, 2023, and it echoed the same thing. Echoed the same thing that, okay, there are more men in the banking system than women.
Okay. There are more men in the banking system. And so what does this mean in terms of financial inclusion in the long run?
So it also means that in the long run, these women that are not in the financial, that don't have a bank account to start with, they are already excluded from other services. They are like from accessing, say, insurance, or they are already excluded because they are not in the banking system to start with.
So to add to what he's saying, right, I think there's also a cultural perspective to this where historically a lot of women are not being able to access like things like you're not able to get land easily as a woman in most African countries. I have a tech background, so a lot of founders who are women, they experience the same issues when it comes to raising funding and all of that. So even when it comes to business, it comes to owning assets and all of that, there's a lot of disadvantage. And for some women who even tend to do this, they go through their husbands or go through their brother. So the brother manages the land that was left behind for the woman and things like that. But all of those things are not even captured. It's very, very difficult to capture these things in the data, right? But from a cultural context, you see that women are disadvantaged when it comes to even incentivizing them to, what is the incentive for them to actually come to meet you? So, which is why I'm impressed with some of these fintechs that came around and said, okay, instead of coming to meet us, let's come to where you are, right? And we see some stories that these guys are celebrating women coming to the financial services sector because you are not, a lot of people who are building for people who are tech savvy, who are upwardly mobile and all of that. But a lot of these people, they trade in Alaba, Oshodi and all of that, and they keep their money in on the other pillow.
Traditional.
Those are systems they can trust because it's cultural, right? Yeah. So if you can now go to meet them where they are, if you can now build with them in mind, right, instead of focusing on, say, bank branches.
So what if our banking system in Africa, in Nigeria, is not attuned to our culture? What if it needs a bit of tweaking to actually embrace the culture as well? Where you could factor in things like tradition, women, even age. Oh, let's step out of that. Let's talk about the tech infusion here and how young people are beginning to be the major part of the market out there.
Yeah.
Do they have access to finances when it comes to them having startups? How does that play in to the Yinka, please, or do you want to go?
Emmanuel.
Okay, so that's an interesting one. So when it comes to finance, Yinka, you can correct me here, but a lot of the funding for startups do not come internally. It does not come from within Nigeria. So a lot of the tech startups are raising money from foreign investors. So you hear global hedge funds like Tiger Global, SoftBank, and all of that. We have a few.
How are they able to access these fundings?
From venture capital. They go for
easier than
networking.
Networking. They go for more the tech events where they go and pitch they do the what's it called the pitch deck where they produce where they like sell their products and the investors are all seated there and then they go for serious.
So in the long run, we're not investing in our own. Instead, we're actually exporting it outside.
Yeah, basically. But then, to add to what you said, so you just look at, I would say that's where the money is. Because that's where the money is, the foreign investors.
The foreign investors.
Okay, because you have foreign investors that will cut, probably the minimum check they will cut is about $1 million. Yeah. But then, come to Nigeria, come to Africa, so you have investors whose the largest check they are cutting, they're around $500,000. Yeah, some are doing $10,000, $20,000. So, because the money is there, so that's just why I'm bothering myself with 10K, 20K.
And it takes a long time for you to get that 20K, because you would woo the investors, take them out for dinner, you woo them continually. This is a year process. Yes, now. Oh, are you joking? To get 20K. But in your report, you said, and to paraphrase it, that we have to go beyond banking. Are traditional banks not going beyond banking? Are they not doing enough? I mean, with their messaging, we've seen their road drives, we've seen the ads that they do. Are they not going beyond banking? Or what does beyond banking look like?
So beyond banking is not only for the banks. So now beyond banking would be the insurance company stepping up, pension company stepping up, or mortgage stepping up, like all phase of financial services coming to say, okay, yes, we can offer these services to you and that's one. The other part would be now going to where these people are. Not just Lagos, not Abuja, not Port Harcourt. Like going to the rural area, because that's where these people that are excluded, that's where they are. And these guys, you run Facebook ads, the chances of them seeing it, you run TV ads, the chances of them seeing it, probably people that don't watch TV or listen to the boss is, I mean, the highest probably listen to radio. You do road shows. The road shows are in the cities, in major towns.
Localized.
Yes, it's not saying let's go to my hometown in Ogun State to see no, it's doing it in Ikeja, doing it in Surulere, doing it
I'm very
here.
interested in something you said about the inclusion of these other systems, like the pensions especially. We've got a sizable amount in pensions. And I'm wondering what's just sitting down there doing.
That's what people have.
How
They
can-
pay their money.
Let's not talk about that, please. In any case, how can they be more inclusive inside of the system? How can I be able to, I know it is possible, I've heard that it is possible, but I've not seen that it is possible.
So,
Emmanuel.
Yeah, so one interesting thing that I found out this week, and so a lot of the things I've found out in recent weeks are surprising me, considering how long I've been in the financial system. I didn't know.
We keep getting educated. No matter how
Trial
long
and error, Nigeria.
Yeah, but
gosh.
so I found out that I could actually pay for mortgage with my pension, my existing pension.
But it's accessing it that's the problem.
So how do I even start? Where do I start from?
What is all this red taping
and
and
there's so much
bureaucracy
hush
with
about
it?
it.
Yeah.
They're not letting you know that you can do this.
It's education.
But to some extent, the pension commissioner has been pushing that, and then like I've known for a long time that yes, you can use your pension to part of your pension to finance mortgage. You can access your mortgage.
Oh, you didn't educate
him. I gave him one tip a couple of weeks ago about. Yeah, he doesn't know that he can access that thing from his bank. Like, oh, you don't know that, but then that's someone in the bank. But that's aside. So that you can access your pension after you're out of the job for a couple of months or thereabout. It's not like they are really doing
a fraction of
that, but then it's really not out there. And there's also the fact that not enough people are even in the pension scheme to start with. And there's a micro pension. That's another conversation.
How can we go after organizations that have refused to remit pensions as well?
Very personal question. She's asking here.
For personal questions, I mean, for that, so that would be taken up with the.
I'm just saying because
there's this agency in charge of monetary that does. Mississippi. I can't remember the acronym. Is it? No, it's not. No, PENCOM is the insurance. But then you working with PENCOM, they work with. There's one agency that takes care of. What they call it?
We'll get that back.
We'll get that. Remember the name of the.
Don't worry. When you do remember.
Gentlemen, let's talk solutions, right? As we close the curtains, it's very important. Let's prefer solutions. We've talked about fintech, traditional banking, lack of education, lack of access. Gender inequality when it comes to access, or even bank accounts, BVN. How we can get more people onto the system. There's so much. Let's prefer solutions. So let me start with you, Emmanuel, and then before you take it.
Yeah, so in terms of solution, I think a platform like this is a good way to start, right? I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this will be hearing a lot of things for the first time, right? And not even knowing that, I think what this will be able to catalyze is more people will be going to their banks to ask questions. When I went to my bank, the queue for people who want to come and take ATM was long. People who want to come and complain about transfer charges was long. But the queue for people who want to ask about credit cards, there was nobody there. Somebody actually come and open the door, right? So that's one thing. So financial education, financial literacy from platforms, then also holding a lot of all these agencies accountable for a lot of things that not remitting pension and things like that. So yeah, I think that's
you guys want to add?
Yes, to add to that, aside education, and now the education now is now going to be on both ends, on the part of the people, the users, and on the part of the service providers to make sure that their agents know the full length of what they can offer and all that. So the other one would be working to make sure that like NIN and BVN, the two can come together to make sure that to encourage more people to have more people in the banking system and have everyone financially included.
Gentlemen, add a bit of education to that as well.
Gentlemen, many thanks. I appreciate you for coming on. Yinka Wofoya is the head of research at Interpoint, and of course, Intelpoint, and of course, Emmanuel Paul, managing editor at Finance in Africa. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us. Here's where we've dreaded curtain. Let's switch gears now to South Africa as we celebrate Africa Day, and we'll get off to South Africa as citizens from around the African continent that are living and working in South Africa have gathered in Johannesburg to take a solidarity march for Africa Day. Now, 25th of May is a day set aside to celebrate diversity, heritage, and the spirit of Africa's collective journey. This News Central's Bongani Ziziba is at the match, and so Bongani, very good morning to you, and well done.
A very good morning to you, and it's a beautiful morning here in South Africa, sunny. Unlike yesterday, it was very cold, but I'm here where there is a gathering of solidarity, not only from South African citizens, but from citizens across Africa who are living and working in South Africa. They just come together to commemorate or have solidarity for the 25th of May, that is tomorrow, Africa Day. Just coming together, just to have a come together to speak about the challenges that African citizens are facing. We speak of the war in Sudan. We speak of what is happening in Congo. We speak of the refugees that also keep on flocking South Africa and other African countries. And this solidarity is just to come together and have that commemoration of being African, the heritage of Africa. But let me just bring in some of the people who are here just to speak about this much. Good morning, say, how are you? How important is it for Africans to have solidarity for Africa Day?
It's absolutely important. The lifeblood of the people of Africa is solidarity. In South Africa, during apartheid, it was largely and primarily the people of Africa who rallied to fight against the white minority regime, as they did with other countries as well. So today, we are saying we are one. There are those who are trying to divide us, those who promote xenophobia because they are not addressing the main issue, the failure of government, the failure of capitalism to provide a better life for all. So they blame, they scapegoat our brothers and sisters from Africa. At the same time, we are standing in solidarity with the people of Swaziland against their despot, with the people of Zimbabwe, Western Sahara, Sudan, and Congo. And I come from the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. We understand the importance of solidarity. So on Africa Day, we say we are opposed to the warlords, the neo-colonial elites, the racists, and the apartheid Israeli regime. Thank you.
Let me just quickly bring in someone else just to speak about the day. Good morning, say, your solidarity about 25 May.
Firstly, I'm General Alfred Moyo. I'm the organizer of the event today. I'm also a South African that stand in solidarity with all the oppressed countries and oppressed citizens who still face a dictatorship, who still live under the dictatorship. And also we are calling for the total smashing of the last African monarch in Swaziland. So today's event is about unity, that we know that we are in 61 years that will be celebrated tomorrow under the so-called African Union, which was an African organization of unity, which was meant to bring that solidarity of Africans, to unite Africans, which we've seen that unity have never been taken forward by those leaders. So we are actually rising today as grassroots formations from below to make sure that we rise together, we make sure that we amplify that unity and solidarity in action, not only as a rhetoric, political rhetorics.
A call for unity from the citizens of Africa that are gathered here. is if I could ask my camera person, Sponelo, just to pan around to show you the gathering that is here, and many are still coming, just to have that solidarity, the African unity, the unity of Africans gathering together and coming together. We know that South Africa is a country that has suffered the xenophobia and also a lot of things that have happened in South Africa, so they are coming together just to have that solidarity of unity with other African countries. It's now back to you in the studio.
We recommit ourselves to the vision of a united, democratic, and people's.
Many thanks, Bongani. We appreciate you for coming on. That's Bongani Ziba there, giving us a real-time insight or views and sound there as Africans living in South Africa celebrate Africa Day. We switch gears now from that live coverage here in the studio as Favor Itwa is on standby to bring us sports. Favor, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Judith. Been a while.
Yes, it has. I mean, I thought you'd be at the, what's it called, Gateway Games?
Well, of course, we've had our correspondents go, visit Abeokuta for updates, and as time goes on, we also have, where we, bring our viewers up to speed. But of course, there are lots of actions right here in the world of sport, especially from Abeokuta, Ogun State.
Yeah, and also not to forget the good guys at, what's it called, Liverpool? And then finally getting a Europa Cup. After how many years?
I think you're talking about Tottenham.
Tottenham, there we go.
Yeah, Tottenham. I mean,
sorry, Tottenham Hotspur,
over 40 years. I mean, Tottenham Hotspur winning the European trophy, and also a disastrous season from Manchester United.
Ooh.
Not winning a trophy, not going to be part of any European competition next season, and that's a big blow, including, of course, for your producer also, who is also listening to me at the moment. But nevertheless, the very best of sports will be given to you right after now.
Listen, I'm just looking at, I'm sorry for you, because the WhatsApp group, the stations, the staff WhatsApp group is about to explode because you just threw shade, and I'll let you continue and just tell everyone in that group, I'm not there.
All right, Manchester United. All right, Elevers, welcome to Sports Update on Breakfast Extra. It's time to give you updates from the National Sports Festival, where Team Ogun State clinched gold in the 4x4 meter mixed relay at the 2024 National Sports Festival, clocking a time of 3 minutes 20.65 seconds to finish ahead of Edo State 3 minutes 23.41 and Lagos State 3 minutes 24.46. Now the host state delighted the home crowd with a dominant performance from start to finish. Now in the men's 100-meter heat, Edo's Chidera Iziako led all qualifiers with a swift 10.22 seconds, while Olympian Enoch Adegoke and Favor Ashi also advanced. Delta State dominated the women's heat with Faith Odumoso posting the fastest time of 11.52 seconds, followed by Success Omokoro's 11.58 seconds. As the athletics event intensifies, sprint stars are eyeing sports in the finals, while Ogun celebrates its first track relay gold on home soil. Still talking athletics and the National Sports Festival, former Nigerian Olympian and the first Nigerian to win an individual track and field medal at the Olympics, Fadilat Ogunkoya has praised the high level of competitiveness at the National Sports Festival. Ogunkoya commended the athletes' performance and emphasized the need for more interest in long-distance events like the 400-meter across Nigeria. In the ongoing track and field contest, Team Edo triumphed in the heats of the mixed 4x4 meter relay, while Team Bayelsa and Team Lagos secured second and third places respectively. Ogunkoya highlighted the significance of grassroots sport development and expressed optimism about Nigeria's future in international athletics.
I'm very impressed. All the athletes are doing very well. I will talk only about my event. My event is 400 meters. Okay. People are running away from the event. The event is for a real woman. When you are a real person, for you to do the event, the training is very tough. But I will plead with everybody to bear with us. The athletes, they should come to 400 meters. 400 meters is...
All right, away from athletics, now to football. A CAF delegation led by third Vice President Pierre-Alain Mogwingwi is in Kenya to inspect stadiums and training facilities ahead of the 2025 African Nations Championships CHAN, set to begin August 2nd. The visit follows similar assessments in Uganda as CAF ensures co-hosts meet international standards. Renovations are underway at key venues, including Moi International Sports Center and the Yayo Stadium, weight improvement and targeting training grounds. The inspection covers pitch quality, safety, and media amenities. Originally planned for February, the tournament was postponed to allow infrastructure upgrades. Kenya, drawn in a tough group with Morocco and DR Congo, hopes hosting will boost national performance and mark a milestone in East African football development. And now to European football. Napoli were crowned Serie A champions after a commanding 2-0 win over Cagliari at the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium, securing a 4th league title and 2nd in 3 years. Goals from Scott McTominay and Romelu Lukaku sealed the victory as rivals Inter Milan, despite beating Como 2-0, finished 1 point behind. McTominay opened the scoring with a bicycle kick just before halftime, while Lukaku added a second early in the second half. Now, despite pressure from Inter, Napoli's triumph sparked citywide celebrations. Manager Antonio Conte, suspended for the final match, claimed his 3rd Serie A title with a 3rd club, having previously won with Juventus and Inter Milan. Congratulations to Napoli. And now to tennis. Novak Djokovic moved within 1 win of his 100 ATP singles title after defeating Britain's Cameron Norrie 6-4, 6-7, 6-6, 6-1 in Geneva Open semi-finals. The 24 Grand Slam champion is aiming to become only the 3rd man in the Open era to reach the 100 title milestone, joining the likes of Jimmy Connors and not forgetting Roger Federer. Despite the shaky second set, Djokovic dominated the decider to secure victory in just over 2 hours. He will face Poland's Hubert Hurkacz in Saturday's final, his 2nd of the season. The Geneva Open serves as Djokovic's final warm-up ahead of the French Open, where he will pursue a record-breaking 25th Grand Slam title starting Sunday against America Mackenzie McDonald. All right, that wraps it up on Sports Update on Breakfast Extra. I'm Favor Itua. We'll go on a quick break and Breakfast Extra continues.
Morning again and welcome. Time for the headlines inside of our 10 o'clock hour. Now, a coalition of civil society organizations have raised concerns over the alleged abduction and mistreatment of a 19-year-old girl in Zamfara State. Hamdiya Sidi Sharif, known for her criticism of the Sokoto State governor, was reportedly abducted in broad daylight and later found abandoned under disturbing conditions. Our correspondent Joshua Marai has more details on this from Abuja.
According to reports, 19-year-old Hamdiya Sidi Sharif, known for her criticism of the Sokoto State governor, was abducted while riding in a tricycle, popularly known as Keke Napep, in a village. Eyewitness accounts allege that she was forcibly taken to another village where she was injected with unknown substances before being abandoned in a bush within Zamfara State. A coalition of civil society organizations have condemned the incident, describing it as a targeted attack aimed at silencing dissenting voices.
Right now, the Commissioner of Police of Sokoto State is demanding she must be returned to him. We believe she was absolutely abducted by the state government syndicate to kill her. She must not be released to come to the Commissioner of Police in Sokoto.
They expressed concerns over the alleged use of the police and state magistrate court to silence Hamdiya Sidi Sharif. They, however, urged the Inspector General of Police to stop the misuse of law enforcement personnel against citizens.
It is worrisome that the police and the state magistrates are being used to maliciously prosecute this teenager for crying out against insecurity and bad governance in Sokoto State. It is important that the Inspector General of Police brings sanity in the way and manner the police are used to harass innocent citizens, while bandits and other criminals are on social media mocking and challenging the Nigerian security, but are not being dealt with accordingly.
We demand for the immediate and unconditional release of Ms. Hamdiya Sharif from contrived detention and be accorded full protection to enable her to enjoy our constitutional rights to freedom of movement, to freedom of expression, and that of personal liberty without fear of reprisal. We also call for an independent investigation into the circumstances surrounding our disappearance and the allegations of the state's complicits, those responsible for any wrongdoing, regardless of their level, should and must be held to account.
They are also calling on the National Human Rights Commission the National Assembly Committees on Women Affairs and the Judiciary, as well as other relevant bodies, to launch immediate oversight and investigation both into this case and similar incidents across the country. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Now to education. The University of Lagos branch of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities has rejected the distribution formula adopted for the disbursement of the 50 billion naira approved by the federal government of universities-based unions. The formula allocates 80% of the academic staff union of universities and 20% to the three unions including SANU, NASU and the NAAT. The union described the formula as unfair, unjust and contrary to the principles of equity and fairness. They argued that non-teaching staff contribute significantly to the overall functioning of Nigerian universities, a situation they say may be reflected in the allocation formula.
We therefore demand an immediate review of the disbursement formula to reflect equity, fairness, and the spirit of mutual respect that guided the negotiations leading to this fund. We call on the federal government to act swiftly in reversing this decision to prevent avoidable disharmony and disruption of academic and administrative activities across campuses in Nigeria. We appreciate our members for their patience and calm.
Now, the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, has reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to job creation through technical training for 3 million young Nigerians. The minister made this known during an on-the-spot inspection of the prominent 9-story standard building in Jos, the Plateau State capital. The facility has been selected as one of the regional headquarters for the project across the country. News Central's Chizobanyan reports that the minister described the initiative as a transformative one that would take youth off the streets, engage them in productive ventures, and ultimately stimulate the national economy.
3 million technical talent program, which is focused on training 3 million young people across the country. It is important that we also find opportunities to help them find jobs as well. And Plateau State, in conversation with the governor, is one of the states where we're focusing on to see how we can accelerate bringing business process outsourcing jobs to the state. Our goal will be to work with the government to see how we can refurbish the building, then open it up to the companies who actually hire young people for business process outsourcing.
Wife of Nigeria President Oluremi Tinubu says select 2,000 or rather 250 persons with disabilities in Nigeria will receive the sum of 200,000 naira each as grants to boost their businesses under her Renewed Hope Initiative project. Speaking at a social investment program in Umuahia, the wife of the Vice President Nana Shatima, who represented the president's wife, also cautions the beneficiaries of the food items against using the kind gesture for financial gains. Some beneficiaries also speak on the impact of the program in their lives. We'll bring you that in subsequent bulletins. Now let's take a break, and when we come back, it will be right back into Breakfast Extra with more conversation. Stay tuned. And welcome back. Now, what did you hear? Nigeria is currently grappling with a significant budget controversy following allegations of extensive padding in the 2024 federal budget. Reports indicate that approximately 6.6 trillion naira was allocated to unspecified projects across the various ministries. We're going to be visiting that in our subsequent conversation here inside of Breakfast Extra this hour. But before we do that, let's see what the dailies actually have for us this morning. Judith, do you have the dailies there with you?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
What was that? A lot happening inside of the dailies so far recently. But let's let you know exactly which ones we're going to be bringing your way first off as I get ready for that here.
The very first one I will pull up for you is the Punch newspaper.
Good.
Mefele and his 753 duplexes, allegedly. The federal government is set to sell those houses to low, middle-income Nigerians. You can find that story on page 4. I would like plans on how and how much it will cost.
And how poor these poor Nigerians would be if
Like
they work in the
myself.
Senate or you know.
Am I one of them?
What kind of poor? Let's define
what
poor
portal
here.
do I have to go to? I tend to be the 753rd.
Do you mean poor as in when you refer to a person as, oh, poor girl?
Oh, like me.
I'm sorry, serious stuff.
Nigeria. The reptiles overrun estate as housing experts doubt government's plans. Oh, tell me about it. At the very top there, Owa Obukun eyes 5 billion naira that's development fund as Obasanjo Atiku grace coronation. You can find that story on page 8. Right next to it, Dad, they have shot me. Heartbreaking moment. Police killed or your schoolboy.
Okay,
that story is on pages 20.
I want to talk about that for a second, if you don't mind, Judith. Now, that was a very heartbreaking story for me, coming off of the kind of week that I was coming off of. So we had Eferobo Israel on Wednesday while I was giving the news, and he had interviewed the parent of the father of the slain boy. Now, somewhere in the middle there, I found myself choking, and when we came back to the studio for me to continue the news, I had to ask for a break because I couldn't continue.
Yeah.
Now, it's very heartbreaking that a young child lost his life in such an instance that could have been avoided. And I've said this times without number. I've been in situations where I have been assaulted by police, you know, with an assault rifle.
And your kid is in the car.
No, not with my kid this time, but me personally, as perhaps maybe a traffic situation. But I have been, what's the word now when a gun is pointed at you? At gunpoint.
Flustered,
At gunpoint. And I'm like, officer, is this necessary? Why must we have weapons at traffic instances?
At
checkpoints and all of that kind of thing? When you have the plate number there that you can always just refer to as the authority and say, okay, put a fine on that. That's what Lagos State is doing now. And I'm wondering if this is not something that can be carried on to other parts of the country.
Yeah.
When I saw that video, and there are faults on both sides.
Look.
There are faults on both sides.
Yeah.
But I don't want to squeeze that. But it was a very, it's very,
yeah.
it was very hard.
First of all, I must say that, well done for, it must be a very hard week for you, just having all the things you have to do with.
Let's keep the details out.
No, of course, I'm not, of course, I would never do that. So I do have to say, again, my heart goes out to you. It's a very hard time for yourself and your extended family.
Thank you very much.
And then to now be in that chair and to watch how this thing is unfolding.
That was exactly the situation.
That's a nail on the coffin, right? But also we must to understand, and this is my own call to Nigerians and the varying opinions on this matter. There are no perfect victims. There are no perfect victims.
I'm going to write that down.
And we must understand that. Whether the father violated traffic laws or not, it doesn't warrant the death of a child.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Plain, simple. I don't care what he did. I don't care anything. No child ought to have died in that situation.
Nobody. No one at all.
Nobody ought to have died because there are no perfect victims, and I think we need to bear this in mind. When you say, oh, why did she leave? Why did she dress like that? Why was he there? Why did he drive like that? There are no perfect victims. Nothing of that situation should have resulted to the death of a child who was on the cusp of his future. With that being said, may his soul rest in peace.
Indeed,
and also,
I agree.
may your family get comfort at this time. Moving on, shall we? The pregnant Ogun women flee to Benin Republic as healthcare crumbles. You can find that story on page 22. Kaduna housewife feeds co-wife's baby acid. You can find that story on page 14. Organ trade, federal government to launch a registry after Punch investigation. And lastly, at the bottom there, marketers kick as Port Harcourt refinery faces shutdown. And you can find all of this and more on the Saturday Punch.
Real quick, we have very little time. Let's do the Guardian newspaper. Front and center for the Guardian 2027 election in focus. Operation Jagabanize, Southern Nigeria on the rise. I love the cartoon. You know I love cartoons. From the south all the way heading to 2027. Love. That's a very nice artist. In any case, other headlines for the Guardian front page. Funke Arthur at 98. I do not know what more to say than thank God. Congratulations, ma'am. Sokoto residents will soon feel impact of the Skills and Entrepreneurship Development Ministry, says Mohammed. And at the bottom for the Guardian, ground rent payment default. Wike seals PDP Secretariat, 4,793 other properties on Monday. Go on, bulldozer Wike, uncle. FG insists on local solar panel manufacturing to retain $40 billion access fund. And Africa leaders must strengthen collaboration against escalating security threats, say minister. That's all inside of the, or rather on the front page of The Guardian. Unfortunately, this might be the only two dailies or front pages that we can take. We spent all that time talking about the Ibadan instance, but
very
it was worth
sad.
it.
It was worth it, isn't it? Anyway, let's switch gears now to a very big story for today. We're talking about budget padding. But first, let's go on a short break. When we come back, we'll bring in our guest and get right into the meat of it. Don't go anywhere.
Once again, I tell you, Nigeria is currently grappling with a significant budget controversy following allegations of extensive padding in the 2024 federal budget. Now, reports indicate that somewhere around over 6 trillion was allocated to unspecified projects across various ministries, raising concerns about transparency and also accountability in public spending. This revelation has sparked widespread debate over stakeholders and also the public alike. Now, in response to these allegations, Budget, a civil organization focused on budget transparency, has supported claims made by Senator Abdul Ningi regarding the lack of detailed allocations. We have our guest in the studio. Bless you, Judith.
Thank you. Anyway, to delve...
I beg your pardon. Are you okay there? Okay, now.
The sneeze is still there somewhere. Well, let me just get through it so that one more time... There we go. Now, to delve deeper into the pressing issues at hand, we're being joined by our guest today. He is a representative from Budget to give us a bit of insight as to what we're looking at regarding this padding allegation. And joining us live here in the studio is Oluseun Onigbide. There we go. He's the CEO and co-founder of Budget, and with his extensive experience in promoting fiscal transparency and accountability, he joins us live in the studio. Good morning to you, Oluseun.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being here today.
It's a pleasure having you.
Physically for the
and
first
also,
time.
well done on all the hard work you guys are doing at Budget. I must say, if no one's going to say it, I will have taken off my hat as a journalist and put on my hat as a concerned citizen, in quotation marks there. And so I have to ask about the findings with this year budget regarding the alleged 6.6 trillion naira allocated to unspecified budgets in the 2024 budget. How did you come across this, and what exactly are we looking at? What's the magnitude of what we're looking at?
Yeah, I think it's also raising the alarm, and this is not the first time that we have been raising this alarm. We've said that the National Assembly, when the budget goes in, what comes out, it's a different ball game entirely. We've had the president present like a 43 trillion naira budget. That budget was raised to 54.99 trillion naira, technically 55 trillion. We had close like 14 trillion being added to the budget if you look at it properly. And the question we asked ourselves, what kind of projects are now added into the budget? Because we needed to interrogate that properly to understand if these projects were tied for national priorities, if they were focused on national budget. There was a proposal by the executive, has over 30,000 projects already that the president has presented to the National Assembly. Now, you now add another 11,000 projects. I mean, bringing almost 40,000 projects that's been delivered by the executive. And we felt, what kind of projects are these? And then when we brought down our analysis, we figured that the whole of these projects are not, broadly speaking, to the Nigerian needs. They are mostly constituency projects for lawmakers and National Assembly. Around 6.93 trillion of capital items were in MDAs were added into the budget, and over 11,000 projects.
Can you be specific regarding what kind of items were added?
Yeah, and if you look at it properly, constituency projects in that regard was around 3 to 4 trillion naira. I mean, if you dive deeply at the one that was specific into the federal constituency and the senatorial district, because you will see something like construction of boreholes across constituencies. You don't know which constituencies those boreholes will be constituted, so they leave it as a blank check. You don't even know who's responsible for that. But the ones that are specific for senatorial districts and the federal constituencies are over 1 trillion naira. And the question we've asked ourselves, is this the best use of public resources? Previously, around 100 billion was given to National Assembly for constituency projects. It's always placed under the capital supplementation items. They stuck to that for a while, but after a while, they started getting into the MDA's budget. And so 2 problems you have. You have first fragmentation of the project. For crying out loud, this is not a local government budget. This is not Ikeja local government budget. This is a federal budget. So you expect that the projects in the budget will span across geographies. It will be a project that connects maybe an Oyo and Osun. If someone is on a project in Oyo, it will be serving multiple people, not you trying to be a borehole, a school, an hospital, and talking things indiscriminately around. And because we know that those things distort national priorities, making an analogy in the last few days that I can hardly drive 200 kilometers in southwest Nigeria in a pothole-free road, the federal road, because that project gets a 10 billion naira allocation almost annually, and you release 8 billion naira out of that money. The contractor delivers something worth 4 billion naira, and he waits till next year and he gets another 10 billion. And in another 5 years, he comes back and says, oh, the price of the contract has changed, I need variation. And you go back and the project that was supposed to cost 100 billion now costs 300 billion naira. And so because we've not been focused and we have not been direct, we put all our resources all over the place, we've not been able to get the kind of results that we need. So some of this is not a conversation on what is legal, what is illegal. Some of the conversation is that what should be permissible in a democracy. If the National Assembly have appropriation powers, which we do not contest that, but the question is that, are they using those powers to serve the broader public objective?
Very good question. Mr. Onigbinde, let me ask this now. If these budgets are supposed to be for projects that are supposed to help the masses, roads, boreholes, and all of this, I want to ask regarding the public perception or trust that we have in this renewed hope administration as against what it was from before. Are we seeing that our trust is declining? Was it better from past administration, or is it getting worse?
I think trust is on a all-time low now. And what is creating that is...
In comparison to previous administration?
Yeah, because lack of solidarity. And I guess, you know, there's a lot of political activity happening right now, and a lot of people have mentioned that that might be pointers to a sign, maybe there's a bit of challenge or worry on the side of the main political actors. Because, I mean, the Nigerian government has not kept up in solidarity with the people. Where subsidy was removed and exchange rate was, parity was found. It took almost a year after that to even negotiate a minimum wage. And you even had to even put a lot of pressure, even after another 4, 5, 6 months, to even get it to be executed properly. Even till now, we have many states, we are doing the research to even look at compliance with the minimum wage. Many states are still not in compliance with the minimum wage. So there's a trust problem. It seems as if...
But who's briefing the president? Because only just 2 days ago at the APC National Summit, he claims that these monies that have been taken away from subsidies are being infused into other projects inside of Nigeria and that it is working.
I mean, to be honest, state governors are excited with the president. I won't even be surprised if all the 36 state governors endorse the president. Yeah, because, I mean, if you were, like I'm from my Oyo state, you were on like a 6 to 8, 7 billion naira per month before. You're now clocking around 13 to 16 billion monthly now, you know, for allocations. I mean, some states are now in 22, 30, 40 billion naira monthly.
So you're saying he's buying the state governors over?
It's not buying the state governor. I won't put it that way. I would say the devaluation of the currency has created much more naira for state governments to play with. And I think for most of them, the question is that have those funds, have they been shifted to the priorities of the people? It looks like you see most of them are still trying to, you know, get themselves into, I want to build an airport. You know, I want to engage in this white elephant project that, you know, do not have direct bearing on the people. I think what is missing is that when these policies were taken, there was no cohesive national policy to say, how do we as a federal and the state government respond to the challenges faced by the people? Right. It just means that you have more money, you have more things to play with. And I'm really excited that the president is giving us that opportunity.
Right. Let's look at, the budget and its work and other, civic society that have continually called for transparency and accountability, especially in the budget process. And you said in your early submission that this is not the first time that issues like this have been flagged, especially with the budget, the 2024 budget, right? And so it begs to ask the question about mechanism to prevent budget padding. Has this administration done that? Has past administration done that? Have past green and red chambers done this? And if they are this mechanism, why is it not being followed to the T, that line items are being itemized appropriately with locations and better specifics so that people can follow?
I think there's first problem. We have a very weak budget office of the Federation. I think that's where our problem starts. That office has not been empowered. Previously, when Mr. Rukayyah was the Minister of Finance, she was big on the fact that the budget office has to sit with the Finance Ministry, not with the Planning Ministry. But I think in her mind, I can't be planning and I can't be disbursing money, and the planning is thinking this way. So she wanted like an total ode of value chain, and that's why she was called coordinating minister for the economy then. The reality is just that the budget office is significantly weak to be able to counteract this. And it's not just this current budget. Even the previous budget office seemed helpless on this situation. The second thing also is the executive powers. Because for most thing around the budget, we could write, these are the nuances, these are the separation of powers, executive, judiciary, legislature. But in reality, there's a political economy around this issue too, that the president must understand that the budget is my policy instrument, is my planning instrument. So if it means I go and meet the Senate president and call the appropriation chairs and call the speakers and say, guys, I don't think this indiscriminate adjustment of the budget is effective. Let's not forget, prior to 2015, we had the budget passed around May and June. Then it took a lot of time. And why? Because there was always back and forth between the executive and the legislature about what gets into the budget. Because when the budget is signed into the law, it's an act of the parliament. You are bound to deliver it, and people will put pressure to get their own items done. The president should be able to have a grip. What I see here is that the president is, maybe it's his own personal philosophy, because I also wonder that he's a former lawmaker. The vice president is a former lawmaker. The SGF is a former lawmaker.
He's also an accountant, by the way. Let's remember this.
Yeah.
I
so maybe they care that. Maybe they think the legislation should undo it end to end.
Is it the presidency now? Is it the president himself? Or what mechanism can be put in place to actually work against the padding? Because you have to ask whether it's the president himself who's padding. I don't think so.
No.
So what mechanism could be put in place for the apparatus under him to not pad the budget?
I don't think what's happening right now is even padded, because, when you say something is padded, I think my own understanding is that beyond what is passed into not by the National Assembly, because that's what we had the previous time, even when the budget is signed by the National Assembly, so people go back and now make adjustments to that budget before it's been transmitted to the president for signing. Or even sometimes when even the Federal Executive Council signs off on the budget, before it gets to the National Assembly, we will take it back to the MDs and make adjustments. My own understanding, that was what we have is the National Assembly abusing its appropriation powers. Because I want to also
abusing its
it's an abuse of public powers. That's what I think I see at this point. You are not using public powers to serve public interest, and you are not tying it into some form of planning.
Sorry, Mr. Onibinde, let's come to the grassroots now. These public interests. I don't know, Judith, if you agree with me. Who indicates that this is in the interest of the people? And what steps does it take before getting to the authority that says, fine, these are the projects that we're going to allocate funds to? Maybe if we start from there, we will have a mechanism in place to ensure that the right projects get funding. I don't know, do you agree?
You're right on that, because I also think most of these projects, CSOs are engaged on that, about need-based projects.
Need-based, yes.
So of these constituency projects, I mean, we did the research on solar power poles and solar power streetlights. They barely last 2 years. 64% of them don't last 2 years.
Yet they're all over the country.
And they're all over the country. And they're delivered at inflated sums.
And it makes me wonder whether they don't do their SWOT analysis on this projects or this, this initiative that they embark on. There is a water thing that is in my mother's village where you have to pump. That thing is lying down there for eons, for as long as I can remember. And until this day, I think it only worked for like 2 months, and it's a relic at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and so you could see things like that dotted around the entire country. And so even for this constituency project, you worry about the delivery of them. The significance of the chunk of those constituency projects are now empowerment projects. So you have National Assembly member care more about these drone shots of long list of sewing machines, tricycles, motorcycles. I mean, look like a long array of things to commit or to prove to people that I'm working. And we're distorting the incentives of what lawmaking should be about. It's supposed to happen. Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to do some constitutional project. But if I'm a member of parliament and I have an opportunity to insert 10 billion naira in the budget, you might be a new member and you do not know your way around, and you can only put 1 billion naira. It looks as if you're not doing anything. It looks like you're not working.
So it becomes a competition of how
it becomes. So now there's not so much pressure on the MDAs, so much pressure on the MDAs to get some of these projects done. And now you now even have some MDAs that are notorious. So they go and meet the National Assembly members and say, our procurement process is smooth. There's this opportunity for you to make sure that you do the nomination of the project, and when we would ensure that the project gets put in the budget, put in our budget. So you have some projects, like there's a federal cooperative called Oji River.
Right.
I think it's like Enugu State. Right. I know what's the business of Oji River constructing a road in Gombe. Do something. I mean, where the oversight like?
I think this was in 2022 or 2023, and if I forget, please help me and jog my memory. I think it was the Minister of Finance at the time who had to, there was this headline in the news regarding the budget for her ministry, and how, it seemed to be padded or the figures were changing. But there was also a process where she was called in by the House, and, she had to defend it. That process where all of the MDA heads, that's the ministry, department, and agencies, have to come in and defend their budget and defend it. It doesn't seem to be happening anymore. I mean, we just saw the minister of the FCT, Nyosom Wike. It was pass mark across the entire house. No one seems to object that 1.7 or is it 2.7 trillion? 1.78 trillion naira allocation for the budget allocation for the FCT. And so it begs to ask the question about accountability and transparency within themselves at the House of Senate and the heads of the MDAs that go on there to are we not worried about that? Have they now become lax, so to speak, or is this just a yes man situation or upholding the renewed hope agenda initiative?
It's an aberration of issues because that's not how democracy is meant to work. I mean, there's no place where the budget is presented in a functional democracy and it's passed immediately. I mean, I heard Senator Ireti Kingibe said, "Oh, we should just clear this." I mean, number one, you're an opposition senator, which there's a huge expectation that the scrutiny should be big on your mind. Then you go ahead and you have not even looked at the content. You have not even shown that it's delivering impact of what it should be. It speaks to the issues within the FCT and its metropolis. It's an aberration of institutions, and it's what you get because we talk about this at the state level. That the state houses of assembly act as if they are an extension of the governor's office. Right. We're beginning to see that trend much stronger. I mean, we had the house where the National Assembly openly disagreeing with the president, and which is open with the Saraki-led government, with the Tambuwa-led assembly, which is fine. I'm not saying that you work at cross purposes, but the perception and the reality must show a certain level of independence. But what we have right now is the Senate president taking the mic, making
and And what
very
does it
dangerous
mean
spaces.
what does that perception mean for the international stage, for that's looking in at us and seeing what's happening? We're being pressed for time, so if you can answer in 30 seconds.
It's not good, because when people assess democracies, and all of these things add to the risk factors as a country. And don't forget, as a sub-region, we are already at risk because of this coup bed that has been happening around. So we need to figure out ways to strengthen development, very critical, to strengthen dialogue, and also strengthen competition within a democracy. If those three things are missing, democracy itself is in great peril.
Sad and very frightening, I would say.
Interesting, yeah.
Very
I say
frightening.
shift focus from amenities to development, or pick a side. I don't know, because you can part a lot when it comes to I'm trying to develop my people, and so I'm going to help them out with tricycles.
How about I develop
how about
my
I provide
bank
the
account?
amenities, proper amenities, not solar-powered streetlights, if you get what I mean.
Anyway, there's no time. I want to say something. But I must say thank you, Mr. Onikbide, for just coming in. We appreciate you for coming in. And also, this is where we draw the curtains with this discussion. But stick around, because there's plenty more on the other side. Please don't go anywhere. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. A proposed amendment to Nigeria's Electoral Act 2022 aiming to make voting compulsory for all eligible citizens has sparked significant controversy. Now, the bill, which has passed its second reading in the House of Representatives, proposes penalties for non-compliance, including fines of up to 100,000 naira or 6 months imprisonment. Proponents argue that this measure would enhance civic participation, strengthen democratic processes. However, critics contend that it infringes upon individual freedoms and could be counterproductive. Now, the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, has strongly opposed the bill, labeling it unconstitutional and draconian. In a statement, the NBA emphasized that compelling citizens to vote under threat of legal penalties violates fundamental rights and democratic principles. They argue that civic engagement should be encouraged through education and awareness, not coercion. The NBA has vowed to challenge any legislation that seeks to enforce such mandates, asserting that it determines, or rather it undermines, the essence of voluntary democratic participation.
So to delve deeper into the contentious issue, we are joined by our esteemed guest here in the studio with us. Joining us, Uchenna Ogunedo Akingbade, managing partner at Sonesis DLP and a co-opted executive member of the NBA Lagos branches, here in the studio with us. You're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Grand.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
First off, I want to ask, from a rights perspective, how legal is this?
Now, as has already been stated in the statement, official statement published by the NBA, it infringes on fundamental rights. Section 39 provides for the right to freedom of expression. And you should be free to express yourself in whatever way you want to express yourself. You should be free to go out there, express yourself by choosing the leaders that you want to govern you. And you should be free to say, oh, I don't want to express that by going to the polls to vote. So you have that fundamental right. Also, there's also the right to freedom of association. You can choose to associate. You can choose to say, okay, associate with this party, and therefore I want to go and vote, because you're voting for the party at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you can choose to associate and say, I vote for this party, or, you know, and you can choose to say, I don't. So it's a gross infringement on their fundamental rights.
But it's passed through 2 readings. So how is that? Do they need you on the floor there to help them determine whether this is a good thing to do or not? Or I don't get
Well,
this.
I believe that's why this is now getting all the backlash that it's getting. So a bill has to pass through several stages, yes. So if you don't catch it at the first stage, you catch it at the second stage.
But even the genesis of it in itself seems a bit outlandish.
Indeed.
Is what people are arguing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So the introductory memorandum of that bill says that they are seeking to pass this law because there is large-scale apathy in the electoral process. So they are seeking to curb that.
I wonder why.
They are seeking to curb that large-scale apathy by introducing this bill. They want to include people. I listened to one of the supporters of the bill, or the proponents of the bill, when he was making his arguments, said they are seeking to promote inclusion. People should come together and vote and participate in the electoral process. Is it by promoting this kind of bill?
Threatening to punish people who do not want to.
I don't think that's the way to go
I think
about
I put it. I don't know if you remember in the monologue. I put it in this scenario here, where I put it as a sick person refusing to take medication, and you saying that I'm going to beat you if you don't take it.
Exactly.
It's and I mean, let's just elaborate on the constitutional concerns that the NBA has raised about this bill, and just how it is in a way infringing on the human rights of Nigerians. I'm going to start there before we now talk about the real issue. What exactly is causing voter apathy? Whether or not it's enforcement of voting that would solve the voter apathy, or the violence, the disenfranchisement, the fact that the BVN did not work, and just a trust deficit in the entire process by Nigerians. But let's start with the constitutional concerns that the NBA has raised.
So that's what I said. Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution enshrines the right to freedom of expression, and this includes the right to silence, absenteeism. So you can choose and say, I don't want to vote. I can absent myself from this process. So the way to go about this, if they are not happy with that, then they have to amend the Constitution in the first place and take that out, because you are entitled to absent yourself from any process. So that is the fundamental right that this violates, this breaches.
Right. If there's also a part of that Constitution that says freedom of assembly, right? If my freedom to assemble, which means by extension, that's my religion, and if my religion or my faith forbids me from civic responsibilities as voting, what happens then?
More like the right to free association, that is section 40, right to association, freedom of association. So yes, indeed, Nigeria is a secular state, so we have different religions. So if your religion forbids you, then you're now saying that you have to go and do this, then it's an infringement also.
A very curious question there, Judy. I wonder why you raised that up.
I've been saying this since last week now. We talked about this last week. But most importantly, let's now talk about what the issue, the root cause that they're trying to address, the root problem here, which is voter apathy, right? How can they go about this another way? Is there another way that this can be done without forcing people or enforcing people to go and vote, and you'll be fined if you don't do it?
But of course, why are people not going out to vote in the first place?
Good question.
They've lost trust in the system. They don't have faith in the system. So different things are wrong. You go out to vote, you're faced with violence at the polling booths, you're faced with harassment. I went out to vote at the last elections, and even as we were going out, news was flying everywhere. People were like, oh, just stay at home, don't get involved. But we went out to vote. Some polling units, people were hurt. So do you understand? Why do you have to fight? Why do you have to face all these hurdles to exercise your civic responsibilities? So those are the things. You have that, and then when you now even surmount the hurdles and cast your votes, does your vote count? So I don't think there could have been a better time than the last elections to give Nigerians trust in the system. Some of us went to vote, we stayed, we waited for our votes to be counted, even when there was problem with the beavers. We stood there and we waited.
Well, there's one part of this we're not even talking about, the ethnic profiling that happened as well during the elections. No one's talking about that one, about that, which already started long before the election had come on, and then it came on, and there are polling units where if you're light-skinned, you're done for.
Yeah, there was violence.
Light-skinned is an ethnic
it's an ethnic thing.
But it seems like they're trying to treat the symptoms instead of the disease.
Exactly, putting a
But what alternative could they have opted for?
Number one, give us a credible electoral process. Give us a credible electoral process, credible electoral system. That's number one. Number two, sensitize people. Let them go out. Because anyway, even if you sensitize and the process is not credible or seen and felt to be credible, people will not have trust in the system. So give people a system that they can trust.
Right.
I think, to me, that is the most important thing.
Okay. And joining us now on this discussion, we're going to bring the other side. Joining us is Honorable Victor Chukwuemele Obuzuo. He's a member of the Federal House of Representatives representing the Awoda West Ogba Ebu Egbema Ndoni Federal Constituency under the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Honorable, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on.
Honorable Obuzo, how does the bill, how is there any process or any proposed process to try and enforce this? Let's talk about enforcement if it does pass. How exactly is enforcement? What, anatomy is it going to take?
So, first of all, let me speak to the intentions of the sponsor of the bill, who happens to be the Speaker of the House. The intention is to stimulate the idea and to inform the public via such a move to understand the damage that is being done in terms of participation of citizens in voting. I know it will not go down well with a lot of people when we are looking at the fundamental rights of citizens. At the same time, I also know that it is applicable it has been applied in many other countries. And the scenarios, situational context of these countries may also differ from Nigeria, And I listened to our lawyer raise some very salient points. But the issue is voter apathy is also a problem, and there is need to address it. And going forward in terms of the bill, there are processes, there's a procedure. There is a time for proper debate. After now, public hearing is supposed to take place, where every Nigerian is free and allowed to participate. So I believe that we should also focus on the demerits of the voter apathy to the country, as well as look at the other sides, the opponents, the reasons for opposing, and see how to ratify the issues.
I mean, Honorable, I wish there was, I wish we had enough time to continue this. Very most importantly is to discuss or address whether or not the House have been able to address the genuine obstacles or the socioeconomic obstacles that Nigerians may face in going to exercise their civic responsibility or their civic duty, because there are some diverse issues that we can do. We can have this conversation, but unfortunately, we were out of time.
Honorable Obuzo, please may I invite you on the show again tomorrow so we can have an extensive discussion on your side of the discourse. If you would please give us that honor, would really appreciate this. Would you give us that?
Yeah, if you can give me a suitable time, I go to church, so...
Okay, we'll try and make it suitable for you. Thank you very much, Honorable Victor Obuzo.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Indeed.
And many thanks to our guest here, Uchin Kingbate, who also joined us live in the studio, managing partner at Sensis DLP, and also co-opted member of the NBA Lagos branch. I wish we could continue, but unfortunately, there's never a time when we're discussing matters of the nation. But here's where we close the curtain. I must say thank you also as well. And Mazino, welcome back.
Thank you very much. I can still feel Dakwa's butt print in my chair, but it's okay.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I don't know what he's talking about. See you tomorrow.